And we're going to use all of our skills that we have learned about radicals so far and apply them to the Pythagorean theorem. Look at some definitions. Our first definition is a right angle. And a right angle is an angle who has a measure of 90 degrees. And then a right triangle is going to be a right triangle that has a right angle. And then a theorem is going to be a statement that has proved to always be true. And the Pythagorean theorem is this, that the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs of a right triangle is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So essentially we were saying that the square of this leg, a squared, and the square of this leg, or b squared, is equal to the square of the hypotenuse, or c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Alright, so in this example, we know that one leg is equal to 12, and then the other leg is unknown, and then we also know that the hypotenuse is 15. So using our Pythagorean theorem that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, we can fill in the known information. So we'll fill in 12 for a and 15 for c, and now all we have to do is solve for b. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and square 12 and square 15. Subtract 144 from both sides, and then we'll square root b squared, which means that b can either be 9 or it can also be negative 9. However, since we're talking about the length of a triangle, the length is not going to be negative, so we would say that the length is going to be 9. It's going to be positive 9. Alright, so to solve an equation where we have x squared equals some number, we take the square root of both sides, but we have to make sure that we remember that it could be the positive of that square root or the negative of that square root. So in this example, we know that we have one leg that's equal to 10, the other leg is equal to 20, and we need to solve for the hypotenuse. So fill in our information. We have 10 squared plus 20 squared equals c squared. So we'll go ahead and square those. 100 plus 400 equals c squared. And then that means that c squared is equal to 500, which means that c is equal to plus or minus the square root of 500. And then the square root of 500 simplifies to 10 times 10 times 5, which means a 10 can come out, so we get plus or minus 10 square roots of 5. And then since we're talking about a length of a triangle, then that means it's going to be the positive 10 square roots of 5. Alright, so if we are looking for the distance between 2 points, we can let that be the hypotenuse. And then the horizontal distance will be a. So in example 3, let's say that we know that the horizontal distance is 8 and the vertical distance is 3. We can use our Pythagorean theorem, which means 8 squared plus 3 squared equals d squared. Remember, d is the distance. So 73 is equal to d squared, which means d is equal to plus or minus the square root of 73. Since it's a distance, though, you can't go negative distance. So that means that the distance would be the square root of 73, or approximately 8.5. So we can find the distance between 2 points on the coordinate plane using Pythagorean theorem. It's going to be the square root of the difference of the x values squared plus the difference of the y values squared. So let's look at one. Let's find the distance between the points 2, 1 and 5, 1. So using our distance formula, it would be 5 minus 2 squared plus 1 minus 1 squared, which ends up being the square root of 3 squared plus 0 squared, which is the square root of 9, which we know is 3. Next example, let's find the distance between -2, -9, and 6 and 5. So we'll do 6 minus -2 squared plus -5 minus -9 squared. And we do what's inside the parentheses first. So that means we end up with 8 squared plus 4 squared. And then that's 64 plus 16, which is 80. And then we can simplify the square root of 80, and that's going to end up being 4 square roots of 5. Another formula that's handy to have is the midpoint formula. And so the midpoint formula finds the middle of 2 points. So if you have 2 points and you want to find the exact midpoint, you can use this formula for a midpoint. So a midpoint is going to be another point. So it's going to be an x-coordinate and a y-coordinate. So the formula for midpoint is going to be the average of the x values, so x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And then that's the x-coordinate. And then for your y-coordinate, you'll find the average of the y values, which means you'll do y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So let's say we want to find the midpoint of -3, 1 and 5, 4. So first we'll add our x values together, so the -3 plus 5, and then divide it by 2. And then we'll take our y values and divide it by 2. So 1 plus 4 divided by 2. We end up, once we simplify, with 2 over 2 and 5 over 2, or 1, 2 1/2. So that would be our midpoint between those 2 points.